Hello and welcome back to Inside Out. My name is Kim Tree Slaughter and I'm a board certified psychotherapist. I make educational and personal growth videos that activate you to change your beliefs and actions so that you can receive real results from the inside out. Today, we are talking the 7 signs you were emotionally neglected as a child. 7 signs that you were emotionally neglected as a child. Before we get into it, though, please hit that like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell. All right, let's get into it. 7 signs your emotions were neglected as a child. Number one, you have the tendency to bury your emotions. You don't see value in your emotions because growing up, no one else did. So when you feel something, as soon as you feel a sign of an emotion rising, you do your best to bury it. Number two, you don't rely on others and fear you have to ask for help. You do not like asking for help. You tell yourself, I can do it myself. I don't need anyone to help me. I got this. I got this. I got this. And what happens is you eventually begin to overwhelm yourself with duties that other people could possibly help you with, but you do not want to ask for help. Number three, you harshly judge yourself. It's almost like you can never do anything right. If you mess up, it's like a big abomination versus saying, oh, no, I just messed up. You do not want to allow yourself to mess up. That is another sign. Number four, you feel guilt and shame about your needs. You have these needs. You have a need for connection. You have a need to be around other people, and you have different types of needs, and you are afraid to, again, to ask for help for those needs, but you actually feel guilt and shame for even having the needs, that is because when you were a kid and you had needs and you expressed those needs, they were smothered or they were drowned out. So now when those adult needs arise, it automatically takes your body and your brain back to being a child where you had those needs and they were smothered out, or you were simply ignored. Number five, you struggle to identify your emotions or to put words to them. You feel these things. You feel, remember, we feel emotions in our bodies. And so when we feel these emotions in our bodies, we have a very difficult time identifying or putting words to them. Why? Because you were never allowed to express those emotions in your childhood. And so you never had the opportunity to practice putting words to them. You never had an opportunity to practice identifying what these emotions were. So now, as an adult, when you feel these emotions, because you've never had an opportunity to practice them or feel them or even understand them, you don't know how to put words to them. Number six, you feel like a fraud. Even when you're doing great things, even when you've graduated school or anything that you have done that is an accomplishment, it's very difficult for you to applaud yourself because you always feel like a fraud. And that is a story that is rotating around and around in your head. And it is something that you are ruminating on. It's a negative narrative that you are ruminating on every day, telling yourself, no matter what I accomplish, I am still a fraud. And finally, number seven, you fear and run away from rejection. You try to take actions in your life to prevent feeling rejected. And so some of the things that you might do is you may overcompensate. You may be friends with someone that you normally would not be friends with, but because you don't want to be rejected, you try to people please. You want everyone to be happy with you and the things that you do and who you are as a person, because you do not want to be rejected because you don't like the way rejection feels. And sometimes you even make bad decisions out of fear of being rejected. For example, you may get into a relationship or stay in a relationship that you know you shouldn't be in, but you will stay there because you don't want to feel rejected. You don't want people to criticize you or even give you feedback, because all of those feelings of rejection feel very, very similar to the feelings that you felt when you were a child. So Those are 7 ways that you can tell if you were emotionally neglected as a child. So how do we overcome this emotional neglect? How do we heal? How do we grow? All right. So the first thing we have to do with any situation is we have to recognize that there is a deficit. That is the first thing we have to do. We're never going to get an alcoholic to go to Alcoholic Anonymous if they don't first recognize that they have a drinking problem. So it's the same thing with us. We have to first recognize and acknowledge that there is an issue. How do we tell that? A lot of times we can tell that in the 7 steps I just gave. A lot of times we can tell in our relationships and how we relate to other people. If we are having more negative than positive experiences in relationships, you might have some emotional issues from your past. Okay, so let me give you some other steps on how you can overcome your emotional neglect as a child. As I said, number 1, acknowledge. 2, practice sitting in your emotions. Notice what part of you feels disturbed. So if I'm angry, my whole body is not angry. My whole self or being is not angry. There's a part of me that has been touched. There's a part of me that has been disturbed that makes me feel anger. So sit with it. Ask yourself, what about what that person said or did make me feel angry? Number 3, create a list of likes and dislikes. This is an opportunity for you to be able to acknowledge and name those feelings or name and validate the things that you like and dislike, because as a child, you didn't have an opportunity to do that. So if I don't like coffee, I should be able to say, I don't like coffee without anyone else saying, what? You don't like coffee? Oh my goodness, where you from? Why you don't like coffee? I should be able to say, I don't like coffee. And if someone says, oh, well, you don't like coffee, I can be like, no, I don't like coffee. I said what I said, right? So sit with those feelings and create a list of things that you do like and the things that you don't like. This starts with you. This healing process starts with you. So when you're creating this list of likes and dislikes, it allows you to feel good about communicating your emotions, even if they are to yourself. Number 4, self-compassion. One of the things we struggle with when we have been neglected as a child is that we don't have any self-compassion. We are always beating up on ourselves. Step back. Give yourself some room to be you and validate your feelings. Number 5, have some empathy on yourself. Empathize with yourself. Say to yourself, I've been through a lot. I have not been allowed to express my emotions as a child. And now I am just learning. Just because I'm 30, 40, 50 years old doesn't mean that I should be there, especially if no one has ever taught me or if there was no environment created for me to grow in that way. So now I am choosing to grow in that way. So I am going to have some self-compassion and some empathy. All right. Number 6, lean into those feelings. Allow yourself to feel what you feel. You know the statement, I said what I said. Well, I'm going to give you a new statement. I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Okay. Allow yourself. You have to validate your emotions if you want the world to validate your emotions. Everything starts with you. Last but not least, talk about your story. You can either do that with a trusted friend, or if you find that you're struggling and it's causing impairments in any parts of your life, then you may need to go talk to a professional. You may need to go talk to a therapist to allow them to help you sort out those feelings, to allow them to help you to see that all the things that you experienced as far as the neglect was not your fault, because kids tend to blame themselves for everything. So those are my 7 tips to combat or to heal from emotional neglect as a child. I'm going to end with a quote from Norman Cousins. The greatest tragedy of life is not death, but what we allow to die inside of us while we are alive. We have to do the work so that we can fully live, we can fully show up, and we can live and love deeply, because one day we won't be able to do it at all. You are enough. You always have been, and you always will be. I hope this was helpful for you, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care.